Okay, so in this video we're going to create a test environment using virtual machines. So the virtual machine is going to be Ubuntu, and we're going to use VirtualBox as our type 2 hypervisor. So prerequisites are you're going to need to install VirtualBox. If you go to virtualbox.org, the landing page will look something like this, and just click on the download VirtualBox 6.1 or whichever version it is at the time of watching this video. Again, like I say, we're going to use Ubuntu. So let's go back, ubuntu.com, go to download, and then what I'm going to use is Ubuntu desktop. So I'm going to use 20.04 LTS, so LTS stands for long-term support. The 21.10, which is a newer version, currently hasn't been granted long-term support yet, so I'm going to stick with the 20.4 LTS. Okay, so once you've downloaded that, depending on how quick your internet connection is, you will have VirtualBox installed, and once you run it, it will look something like this. So I'm going to need to create my machine now. So if I click new, and then I'm going to give it a name, so I'm just going to call it Ubuntu. Now, if I typed Windows, it would pre-populate as Microsoft Windows. If I called it my name, I would need to select Linux itself or whichever operating system you're using. And the version number is also pre-populated because it recognises the name Ubuntu. So that's done for us, but for this example, we'd need to select Ubuntu 64-bit if we called it something random. You want to click Next. Now here's an important step. So on a Type 2 hypervisor or a virtual machine, the host like for example, the laptop I'm working on has 16 gig of RAM, which is shown here. So I'm in a bit of a fortunate situation in this example. However, you may have 8 gigabytes of RAM, and then you've got a bit of a dilemma on your hands. So the host's going to need to be running properly. So I need to allocate as much memory to the host as I can, but I also need to balance that with the amount of memory given to the virtual machine. So in this example, I am going to stretch it up to 6. And that'll be ample for my virtual machine and also plenty left for my host. Now, I could have 3 or 4 of these virtual machines running at one time. Again, once the machines are running, they're going to be using RAM up to a certain point. So if you're in a position where you've got 32 gig of RAM or more, you can run many virtual machines. But if you've just got 8, it's going to really start lagging. And if it's a Windows machine, you probably get a blue screen of death if it was using too much memory. So I've roughly got 6 gigabytes of RAM here. I'll click Next. I want to create a virtual hard disk now, and I want to have it as a virtual disk image. I'm going to dynamically allocate the storage, so if I need it to grow, I can just stretch the storage space. And I'm going to allocate 15 gig of storage, or roughly 15 gig of storage to it. Again, depending on your storage space, you can stretch it as much as you want. I'd recommend then starting low if you're going to dynamically allocate it. I'm going to click Create. Okay, so that's created the machine. Now, if I click Start now to power it on, it's going to ask me to set the ISO to it, as if I was going to be installing it from scratch on a PC or a laptop or whatever. So mine's pre-populated the ISO file here that I've downloaded from Ubuntu, but yours might not have done. So you want to click Add, and then add the file that you've downloaded, so the Ubuntu file. So CentOS is just another operating system that I've been playing around with recently. So I want to keep it at Ubuntu. Let's just make sure we got it there. Oops. Okay, so Ubuntu, click Start. That should then start installing your machine. So let's just walk through this installation. Okay, so I can try Ubuntu or I can install it. I'm going to install it onto my virtual machine, so I'll click install. And then my keyboard layout's UK, language is UK, continue. You can have a normal installation or a minimal installation. So in this example, I am going to use a normal installation. Again, the minimal installation just takes away sort of Office software and some utilities. So let's just do it as a normal installation. And then I'm going to keep selected download updates while installing. Click continue. Erase disk and install Ubuntu. So on the virtual machine, this is not going to erase your host machine. This is just going to erase the partition you have created for your virtual machine. So don't be scared to click install now. And then write the changes to disk or click continue. I'm near enough in London. And then pick your name. So let's call it test. Computer name test VirtualBox. Let's just give it a simple password. Again, it's short, but we won't take it too serious at this stage. And then that's going to run the install now. Okay, so our installation's complete now. So just click restart. It should just work like a normal operating system. No installation media. Again, if your screen looks like this, you press the right control key and C, and then click switch. I'll just go onto my other screen, but that will now bring it up big, and then you can just go back by pressing Control and C again if you want to feel like that look. Let's just get it back. Okay, so gave it the test account name, login, and it generally runs a bit slow at first, but then it should pick up in time. Okay, I'm just going to skip this stuff. Click next, 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 done. Okay, so now we have a nice little virtual machine to play around with, our Ubuntu virtual machine. So next sort of step, I'll just power it off. I'll just show you something else. So we've got, here we have our Ubuntu virtual machine here pre-populated on the left-hand side. Again, if you had 4 or 5 virtual machines, they'll be listed down the left, and I just simply click start to power 1 on, or put power 2 on if you've got 2. But I'm going to now export this to an open virtualized format or an open virtualization appliance. So if I click File, then Export Appliance, and I've only got one virtual machine, so if I just click Next, I'm going to strip all network adapters and MAC addresses. I'm going to click Next, and that's going to go into my Documents folder, but I don't want it to go onto OneDrive, so let's just put it into Downloads, and then click Next, click Export. Okay, so that's going to now export it as a virtual appliance or a virtualization appliance. Okay, so that's created our appliance or virtual appliance. So now I can move that file or that I can create a virtual machine on any laptop or PC that has VirtualBox installed, I just need that file that I've just exported. So just for example, I can just import another one onto here. Just select the file. It was in downloads. Select Ubuntu. Select next. So generate new MAC addresses, that's important. Again, if you're using a different, especially if you're using a different PC, then click import. And that should start importing it now. That's going to be a lot quicker than the exporting. It shouldn't take long at all. Okay, so that's created my second virtual machine very quickly. So again, once you've created one, it's easy to create the two if you're exporting the appliance. I'd just like to add that it's you're going to basically clone the setup that you created the first one in. So these are going to allocate 6 GB of RAM and roughly 15 GB of hard drive space, which is replicating what I did on my first one. So that is how you create a virtual machine, an Ubuntu virtual machine on VirtualBox, and then export it as appliance and import it back. Again, you can do it on, you can import it back onto another machine if you like, and move it around. It will save it as long as you're exporting your save, your modified version, and then importing it back every time you need to. Usually used for test environments, but you can use them for whatever you want. Enjoy.